Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nigamakalpataraurgalitam phalam sukamakadam ritadivasammitam bhibadam bhakutam rasamalayam muhurahurasigabu vibhavukaham Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet Nashtabaya shrireshu nittam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtikim Ete chamsa kalapam sam krishnastu bhagavansayam indriya vyakulam lokam ridyante yuge yuge nama sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranashanam pranamaduka samanastam namami harim param. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 8th chapter, text number 26 till 46. So only one verse has one purport, that is text number 38. So I will read from 26 till 37 and then together we'll recite the verse which is written on the board. Text 26. Sankhyatoriam ridanganam vaditranam pritusvanaha devanuganam sastrenam nrityanam gayatam mabut. Translation. The inhabitants of Gandharvaloka and Charanaloka then took the opportunity to play their musical instruments such as conch shells, bugles and drums. They began dancing and singing along with their wives. Text 27. Brahma rudrangira mukya sarve vishwas rijo vibham idire vitathai mantras tallingai pushpavarshanaha. Translation. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the great sage Angira, and similar directors of universal management showered flowers and chanted mantras indicating the transcendental glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 28. Shriyavalokita deva sa prajapatayo prajam shiladi guna sampanna lebire nivritim param. All the demigods along with the Prajapatis and their descendants, being blessed by Lakshmi Devi, glance upon them, were immediately enriched with good behavior and transcendental qualities. Thus they were very much satisfied. Nisatva loluparajan nirudyoga gata trabaham yada chopekshita lakshmya babhuvu daityadanavaham. O king, because of being neglected by the goddess of fortune, the demons and rakshasas were depressed, bewildered and frustrated, and thus they became shameless. Athasid varuni devi kanya kamala lochana asura jagrihustam vai harer anumatte nate. Next appeared Varuni, the lotus-eyed goddess who controls drunkards. With the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the demons handed by Bali Maharaj, took possession of this young girl. Atodhadher matyu manat kashapair amritartibihi udatishtan maharaja purusha paramadbhutaha. O king, thereafter, while the sons of Kashyap, both demons and demigods, were engaged in churning the ocean of milk, a very wonderful male person appeared. Dirga pivara dordanda kambu grivor nekshanaha shamalas tarunasragvi sarva bharanabhushitaha. He was strongly built. His arms were long, stout and strong. His neck, which was marked with 3 lines, resembled a conch shell. His eyes were reddish, and his complexion was blackish. He was very young. He was garlanded with flowers, and his entire body was fully decorated with various ornaments. Pitava samaho raksha sumrishta manikundalaha snigda kunchirake shanta subhaga simga vikramaha amrita purna kala sambibradvalaya bhushitaha. He was dressed in yellow garments and wore brightly polished earrings made of pearls. The tips of his hair were anointed with oil, and his chest was very broad. His body had all good features. He was stout and strong like a lion, and he was decorated with bangles. In his hand he carried a jug filled to the top with nectar. Savai Bhagavata Sakshat Vishnuram Samsa Sambhavaha Dhanvantari iti Khyata Ayurveda Trikijabhak. This person was Dhanvantari, a plenary portion of Lord Vishnu. He was very conversant with the science of medicine, and as one of the demigods he was permitted to take a share in sacrifices. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya remarks, Tesham Satyachalan Natam Hariya Dhanvantarir Vibhu Samato Apyasuranam Tu Sahastad Amuchat Sudham. Dhanvantari, who was carrying the jug containing nectar, was a plenary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But although he was very strong, the asuras were able to take the jug of nectar from his hands. Tam alokya sura sarve kalasam chamrita britam lipsanta sarva vastuni kalasam tarasaharan. Upon seeing Dhanvantari carrying the jug of nectar, the demons, desiring the jug and its contents, immediately snatched it away by force. Nyamane suraistasmin kalasam ritabhajane vishanamanaso deva harim sharanam ayayom. When the jug of nectar was carried off by the demons, the demigods were morose. Thus they sought shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Iti taddanyam alokya bhagavan pritya kamakrit ma kidyatamitam mritam va sadhya yeshya swamayayam. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always desires to fulfill the ambitions of his devotees, saw that the demigods were morose, he said to them, "Do not be aggrieved. By my own energy I shall bewilder the demons by creating a quarrel among them. In this way I shall fulfill your desire to have the nectar." So now text number 38 we will read together. Mita kalera bhuttesham tadate tarshachetasam aham purvam natvam iti prabho. Mitham, among themselves. Kali, disagreement and quarrel. Abhut, there was. Tesham, of all of them. Tad arthe, for the sake of nectar. Tarshachetasam, bewildered in heart and soul by the illusory energy of Vishnu. Aham, I, Purvam, first. Aham, I, Purvam, first. Na, not. Tvam, you. Na, not. Tvam, you. Iti, thus. Prabho, O King. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. O King, a quarrel then arose among the demons over who would get the nectar first. Each of them said, "You cannot drink it first. I must drink it first. Me first, not you." Purport. This is the symptom of demons. The first concern of a non-devotee is how to enjoy his personal sense gratification at once, whereas the devotee's first concern is to satisfy the Lord. This is the distinction between the non-devotee and the devotee. In this material world, since most people are non-devotees, they regularly compete, fight, disagree, and war among themselves. For everyone wants to enjoy and satisfy his own senses. Therefore, unless such demons become Krishna conscious and are trained to satisfy the senses of the Lord, there can be no question of peace in human society or any society, even that of the demigods. The demigods and devotees, however, are always surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus the Lord is always anxious to satisfy their ambitions. While the demons fight to satisfy their own senses, the devotees engage in devotional service to satisfy the senses of the Lord. The member of the Krishna consciousness movement must be alert in regard to this point, and then their preaching of the Krishna consciousness movement will be successful. Om Ajnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Militam Yanam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantigam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yotapadakamalan Sri Guran Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishagan Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Govika Ganta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshari Brijabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivajari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here the description is given about the churning of the ocean of milk between the demons and the demigods. There's always some competition, and so the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as it is mentioned in the scriptures, and Krishna himself is explaining in Bhagavad-Gita, he is coming to protect the devotees and to establish a religion and to annihilate the demons. So here in this chapter also, so we can see various items were produced when they were churning the ocean of milk. And the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, so before he had told them, the demigods, that they should be not so much anxious to get so many of the things which may come from the ocean of milk. Rather they should persevere in the churning, and then eventually they will be able to get nectar which will help them in become strong in order to be able then to defeat the demons. So here very nicely it is explained in this verse about the materialistic person, about the demons. What is their mood? Aham purvam, me, aham, me, I, purvam, first. I should first get the nectar. Natvam, you should not get. So that is a materialistic person. He's thinking about himself. He's not concerned about the others. Aham mameti, I and mine. So sometimes, some extended sense gratification is there. So the materialistic person, he will take care of himself, and then also, of course, his family may be there, his wife and children, and he will make sure that whatever they need, they will have. But then he doesn't care much about anybody else. So that is the gross materialistic person. Whereas the devotees, so they will first of all try to offer everything to Krishna. They will do everything for Krishna's pleasure. Krishnendriya Priti. The devotee tries to satisfy the senses of Krishna. Whereas the materialistic person, he will try to satisfy his own senses. And then even, for example, so the devotees, so they sometimes, they perform yagya also. And there when we perform yagya, we offer oblations into the fire for the pleasure of the Lord. So in the conditioned state, even for the devotees sometimes, the enjoying tendency will be there. Because since time immemorial, the living entity has been trying to enjoy in this material world. But by good fortune in coming in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord, then the understanding is there that we should do everything for the Lord's pleasure. So but this enjoying tendency may still be there. So that has to be given up. Slowly but surely, by following the process, under the guidance of the spiritual master, the scriptures, Guru Sadhu Shastra. And so then when the devotees are engaged in devotional service, they do everything for the pleasure of Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. And so when, for example, the devotees perform a yagya, they will offer oblations into the fire for Vishnu, and they will say one mantra also. So various mantras may be chanted for the pleasure of the Lord. And after offering obeisances, the custom is there that the devotee will say, the priest, Idam Krishna, Idam Namama. So this offering is for Krishna. Idam Namama, it is not for me. So after every verse they will say, Idam Krishna, Idam Namama, Idam Krishna, Idam Namama. So they will offer many verses, they will recite and offer ghee, the priest, and then the yajman, those who are organizing or for whose benefit the yagya is, so they will offer some samagri, havan samagri, ahutis, some rice and some auspicious herbs and black sesame seeds and barley is mixed together, and that is offered. And everyone will see swaha, swaha. So I myself am offering this to the Lord. It is an offering to the Lord. So the priest will say swaha, but then he will also say idam Krishna, idam namama. So this is for Krishna, it is not for me. So that has to be always be, therefore Prabhupada is explaining the purport that the members of the Krishna consciousness must be alert in regard to this point. So the point is there that everything has to be done for the satisfaction of the Lord at every moment ultimately. So which of course will take time to become fully surrendered. So the beginning stage, so the devotee is new to Krishna consciousness and naturally some humility is there because he doesn't know anything and he has to learn. But then sometimes you may see after sometimes the devotees, they become used to performing the seva and they become familiar with the philosophy, and many times the humility then is not becoming ripe, and sometimes it is going away and they become proud also. Even for example, somebody will then take initiation and then they will continue, will they get second initiation, and then they will have the opportunity to go on the altar. And that is my experience, and I have seen that then especially in the beginning the pujaris, they are very humble. Again, because they don't know anything. And they go with folded hands in front of the deities. And very afraid that they don't do a mistake because they know Krishna is there. But then, as the saying goes, familiarity breeds contempt. Then they do the seva, and then the mind is thinking so many things, and then sometimes they become neglectful, or they become familiar. They take it for granted that they have the opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because they are conditioned, then the conditioning is there, and then the humility and the respect is less. So therefore we have to be careful, and as Prabhupada is saying, always remain humble and respectful at all the times. And so then you can progress. So in spiritual life, and Mahaprabhu has said, Trinada Pisunichena, Torora Pisaishnuna, Amani Namananena, Kirtaniya Sadahiri. We should always be very humble, tolerant, not expect honor, but God give all respect to others. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami has mentioned that we should, or he has recommended, that we should wear this verse, just like we have a kantimala, or just like we get the garland, should be around our neck all the time. So always we have to be reminded, or we have to remind ourselves that we should remain humble in every circumstance. And then we can progress, especially by chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So in the beginning, so the humility may be there, but it is kacha. It is not pakka, it is not ripe, it is unripe. Just like you have a mango is always nice. And when you have the unripe mango, of course now in the winter we don't have mangoes, but in the summer they come. And first it is unripe, and you can make some chutney. You can make some preparation, you can make some juice with that, which is tasty. You add some little sugar, and then it becomes also palatable, and some spices. And also, but then when the mango becomes ripe, pakka, then you don't have to add anything. And it is very sweet. And there are so many kinds of mangoes. Of course, some are more sweet, and the famous one is from Maharashtra side, Alfonso mango. And so you can eat that, and it is so tasty. And you can make nectar with that. So many varieties of preparations may be there. So it is all tasty. So, and so similarly, the devotee who is trying his best, so Krishna will always accept the seva of the devotee, provided he is humble. And also the spiritual master, the representative of the Lord, he will appreciate the devotee who is humble. Even though the humility may not be ripe. So similarly, the faith may not be strong. And the surrender, in the beginning it is not possible to fully surrender. And to have drir vishwas, strong faith, and to have real humility. Only by many, many years practicing devotional service, by trying to surrender with faith, and by trying to be humble, then slowly but surely the consciousness is purified. And then one will be understanding, not only theoretically but practically, that I am not this body, I am spirit soul. And then when one is fixed on a transcendental platform, beyond the three modes of material nature, then the pakva dainatva will be there. The ripe humility, the real humility will be there. Understanding I am so insignificant. Completely apart from the body. If you take the tip of the hair, you cut it 100 times and again 100 times, which is materially speaking not possible, but the example is giving, that is the size of the soul. But then in spiritual consciousness, so it may be realized our insignificant nature, and then actually our spiritual nature is slowly but surely revealed. Our transcendental form. And then, so then the humility is ripe when we are transcendently situated, and then the faith will be strong, and nothing can shake the devotee. No difficulties. He will be always engaged in devotional service, despite all difficulties. He will never give up devotional service. Even if there may be so many difficulties which are mostly there in this world, from the own body and mind, from the society, or natural catastrophes, in happiness or in distress, in sickness or whatever, the devotee is fixed, and he will try his best to serve the Lord. Of course, if a disease is there, if there is a heavy cold, maybe it may be a little difficult to chant properly. If one is coughing, but he will still try as much as he can. But when he's healthy, then he's fully engaged in devotional activities. So then the humility will be natural. He will be always humble. respecting all the Vaishnavas and understanding that I'm insignificant, that I have to serve all the Vaishnavas. And then he can properly chant. Nam Ruchi will be there, taste for chanting the holy names. And he cannot stop. In the beginning, so it may be not so easy to chant, concentrate the 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra, or even take part in Kirtan. So, but then when one has Nam Ruchi, it is then easy, quite easy to chant the holy names. And then he will feel transcendental pleasure, because Krishna, Krishna Nama non-different. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nidamukta Abhinatvam Nama Naminaha. Krishna, Krishna Nama non-different. Namananda Rupam. Krishna is the source of all transcendental bliss. Paramanand. So Krishna, Krishna Nama non-different. So then the devotee will be able to chant in great transcendental happiness, and then he may perceive Krishna's transcendental form and understand his relationship with Krishna, and then actually is able to fully surrender on this platform. When the anarthas are not there, or he has overcome the anarthas, or the so then after that, but then still after that, Nam Ruchi, what he will do? Vaishnav Seva. He will be always ready to serve the Vaishnavas, and Jiva Doya. And he will be trying to give the Krishna consciousness to others by distributing books, like in a marathon, or by speaking about Krishna, try to give others the holy names, or even by simply distributing prasadam, or just by thinking for the welfare of others, always being in that mood of trying to help others. It is also mentioned, Sarva Bhute Hite Rataha, that the devotee is always trying, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha, he is engaged for the hit, for the benefit of all the living entities. He doesn't just think about himself, but he's thinking how I can help others, what I can do for the others. So in this position, so then when the true humility is there and the faith in the Lord, which is ripe, then the full surrender may be there. And then automatically we'll do everything for Krishna's pleasure and not for himself. But on the stage of as a sadhaka, when one is not yet free from the three modes of material nature, then one has to consciously make an effort to do the things for Krishna's pleasure always. And so one has to then check oneself and seeing if he's actually, I'm doing for Krishna's pleasure always. So the devotee, therefore Prabhupada has explained, the devotee has to be alert, so that he will always do for Krishna's pleasure and not for his own pleasure. So it is a very fine line, Krishna consciousness and sense gratification. Even in Krishna consciousness, you may see sometimes, of course, if one is in Krishna consciousness and there's some sense gratification may be there. And that is natural. If Krishna is satisfied, then we may be satisfied. The senses are satisfied. But then there's a fine line between spiritual sense gratification and material. So the devotee has to be alert, so that as he is engaged in spiritual activities, in devotional service, that he is truly doing everything for Krishna's pleasure and not for his own pleasure. Like sometimes you may see, so somebody may be cooking for the Lord in the temple, but then he will think, oh, now I will cook this, and then I will take the Mahaprasad. Or even the Pujari may think, now all these nice preparations are there, already thinking, oh, I will get the Mahaprasad. But now first, idam Krishna, idam namama. First for Krishna, it is not for me. It is a very fine line. So one has to be always alert. And then only, so that one can be actually fully satisfied. And then as Prabhupada is explaining, then if this is followed properly, then the preaching of the Krishna consciousness movement will be successful. One time Prabhupada said, when he was in Mumbai, if I had a couple a few fully surrendered devotees, I could take over the whole world in 18 days. But now we are 50 years, Prabhupada left 40 years ago, and we have not even conquered our own self, what to speak of the whole world. So it is not so easy to become fully surrendered, but we have to try. So we have to try to give up sense gratification at every moment. One time Prabhupada was on the Vyasa-san speaking about the Krishna conscious philosophy, and he was saying every moment you can choose. And then he was moving his body. You can choose Krishna. Then he was going to the left, or you can choose Maya. So every moment you can choose left or right, Krishna or Maya. And we can see in our own life, and if we observe our own self, and then so we can see Krishna in the temple, or even so therefore we have to see Krishna every day, so when we walk out of the temple we may see Krishna. But then the mind and the sense are going here and there, towards the sense objects, but we have to control. Try to see Krishna, and not look towards Maya in various forms. So we have to withdraw the mind and the senses from the sense objects. That is yoga. Link with the Lord and to control the mind and the senses. First of all, it is mentioned, if the mind and the senses are not controlled, there is no question of yoga. So in any form of yoga, even Ashtanga yoga is there, yam niyam, following the rules and regulation, asana, pranayam, sitting properly, some postures for keeping up the health, breathing, controlling the breathing, and then pratyahar, withdrawing the senses from the sense object. Because in the material world, the senses are always going to the sense objects. It is natural. But we have to control and direct them towards Krishna. The senses should go towards Krishna. Seeing Krishna, hearing about Krishna, touching Krishna's deity form, smelling the incense offered to Krishna. So all the senses, walking to the temple to take darshan, all the senses have to be engaged in Krishna, in Krishna seva. So in this way, the consciousness becomes purified, and when the consciousness is purified, then we can understand our spiritual nature, transcendental nature, beyond the gross and material body, having a transcendental form, just like Krishna's form. Krishna's form, Satchidananda Vigraha, is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. The living entities as part and parcels of Krishna, they also have a transcendental form, full of bliss and knowledge. But Krishna is Vibhu, is great, and we are Anu, we are small. So that we have to always remember. So if we try our best to surrender to Krishna, then Krishna, He will help. And especially in the age of this age of Kali, so even before taking shelter of Krishna, we have to take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is most merciful. Because in the age of Kali, the jivas, the living entities are not very qualified to perform spiritual activities. Manda sumanda matayo. So there is not a long life, the intelligence is not sharp, the memory is not good, and the health may not be good, the environment is not pure. So it is difficult. And because the samskars, purificatory rites, are not performed according to Shastra, therefore it is mentioned, Kala Shudra Sambhava. In the age of Kali, the living entities are just like Shudras. No qualification for spiritual life. But then by the causeless of mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his eternal associates, the spiritual master and the disciplic succession from Mahaprabhu, by their mercy, even the conditioned fallen souls of the age of Kali, they can make rapid advancement in spiritual life by taking shelter of Guru and Gauranga, and by chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. But as Mahaprabhu told, so always in a humble state of mind one has to chant the holy names. Amanina Amanana, Krishna Nama, Sadalabe, Braja Radha Krishna Seva Manise Karibe. So always very humble, respectful, chanting the holy names, and then within try to remember Radha and Krishna. So Mahaprabhu came to give Braj Bhav, and there especially Unut Ujjala Ras, the most bright shining love of the gopis, which is most excellent, most exalted. So we have to take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Patita Pavana Hevitu Tava Avatar. So he has come to deliver the most fallen. And and by taking shelter of Mahaprabhu, by chanting the holy names, and then by being in the association of the devotees, because without the association of the devotees it will be difficult to advance in spiritual life, to take shelter of Mahaprabhu. So we must have the association of the spiritual master, the devotees, and then we chant the holy names, worship the deities, and every day we have to hear the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-Gita. We have to hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his wonderful pastimes. And then, so when we hear sufficiently, then we can remember. And when we serve the deities, then we can remember the Lord while chanting. And then Krishna and Krishna Nam become one. And then first Roop. First we may see this form of the Lord. And then Gun, we can understand the qualities of the Lord. Nam, first we chant Krishna Nam. And then the Roop may be revealed, the form of the Lord. And then Gun is transcendental qualities. Just like Krishna, he has only limited qualities of Mahaprabhu. So especially Krishna's qualities are there which no one else has. The Rupa Madhurya, his beautiful form. Venu Madhurya, when he's playing the flute. What the effect is there when Krishna is playing the flute, so enchanting. And then his Lila Madhurya, his wonderful pastimes are there. And then the Prem Madhurya, the loving exchange with the devotees. Similarly, Mahaprabhu, so his most wonderful, transcendental, enchanting, beautiful form. So all the symptoms, as mentioned, the scriptures are there in the personality of Mahaprabhu, because he's not different from Radha and Krishna. Purushottam, Mahapurush. So, beautiful long hair up to his shoulders, and wearing beautiful dhoti and chadar, and long arms up to his knees, and always wrapped in chanting the holy names in remembrance of Radha Krishna's pastimes. So we have to take shelter of, try to take shelter of the spiritual master, the Vaishnavas, and then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then when we get the mercy of the Lord, then we can ultimately then approach Sri Radha and Krishna. So, and just like in this world, so even as we know, so in order to achieve something, we have to be very serious, sincere, and we have to be very diligent in trying to achieve the goal. In any field, if one becomes a doctor, a lawyer, or even maybe a sports star, so he has to work very hard. Some qualification may be there, but then one has to work very hard. Similarly, in spiritual life, so one has to actually endeavor very much, and then one will get the mercy of the Lord. But the mercy of the Lord will also not come all at once. It will come slowly but surely. So just like if one is going to school, so one has to pass many exams, many tests, and then one can go to a higher class, first, second, third class, and so on. So also in spiritual life. So one starts with Shraddha, faith, and then Sadhusanga, the association of the devotees. Then one can go up gradually by performing bhajan under the guidance of the spiritual master. Then one can cross all the anarthas, unwanted things. Then comes Nishtha, we can become fixed in spiritual life. And then comes Nam Ruchi, Seva Ruchi. One can experience transcendental bliss, transcendental taste in chanting the holy names, in serving the Lord, in whatever one is doing, will be transcendental taste. And then one can become completely attached to Krishna and detached from this material world. And then we may come to the platform of Bhav, where the transcendental emotions are coming from the soul directly. on the Bhavavasta, so the devotee is situated on the transcendental platform, completely apart from the gross and subtle material body. And actually in the higher level of pure devotional service, when one is realized, the material intelligence and the material mind will be dissolved. And then the pure intelligence, pure consciousness will be there, even though one may be situated in the material body. But then the body also becomes spiritual. Isya yasya haridasya karma namasarigira niklavajavastasu jivan mukta suchyate. So even in this material world, if one is fully dedicated with body, mind and words in the service of the Lord, then ultimately one will become liberated. And then, so therefore the pure devotee's body, the spiritual master, the sannyasi's body is not burned, but it is buried. So because the body is pure, there's no need to burn the body. But otherwise, if one is not pure, the body is burned. Antim samskar is there, the last rite for purification. So the different purificatory rites are there, samskars to be performed, especially by householders. But even, so that is from one point external, but then we have to see the internal aspect of our consciousness. So we have to see in the association of the spiritual master, we get the proper mood and the proper ideas how to actually perform devotional service, in which consciousness, what is the proper mood. So in this way, in the association of the advanced devotees, the consciousness may be purified. But if one is not pure at the end of life, then the body may be burnt, and so then the body, so impurities are burnt, and even subtle, the consciousness by that burning, and even then the performance of the yagya, which is performed 10 days after somebody leaves the body, then some more purification will be there, so that one may be able in the next life to be properly situated. And with the help of the Supreme Lord, if one is not able to become perfect in this life, then in the next life he will have an opportunity to become perfect in spiritual life. So it is an ongoing process, and we try to make as much advancement as possible in this lifetime, and we hope to become perfect in this lifetime, and it is possible. But in order to be able to do that, so first of all, so we have to give up this enjoying propensity and do everything for Krishna's pleasure. So, idam Krishna, idam namama, everything for Krishna, not for me. So that is the main point which Prabhupada has explained here. So, we will just read the last few verses, and then, so in this way then because the only small purports are there, and because then the chapter will be finished, and then if somebody has some question, they may ask. Devasam Bhagavam Arhanti ye tulyayasa hetavaha satra yaga ivaitasmin eva dharma sanatanaham iti swam pradyashedan vaidaiteya jatamatsaraha durbala prabhavam rajan grihita kala sambahu. Some of the demons said, all the demigods have taken part in churning the ocean of milk. Now as everyone has an equal right to partake in any public sacrifice, according to the eternal religious system, it is befitting that the demigods now have a share of the nectar. O king, in this way the weaker demons forbade the stronger demons to take the nectar. Purport. Desiring to take the nectar, those among the demons who were less strong spoke in favor of the demigods. The weaker daityas naturally pleaded on behalf of the demigods to stop the stronger daityas from drinking the nectar without sharing it. In this way, disagreement and trouble arose as they forbade one another to drink the nectar. An interesting point by Prabhupada, and in the verse, that even amongst the materialistic persons, so there's a differentiation there. So that some of them, they're real demons, atheists, and completely against the devotees. Whereas others, they may be innocent, and they may not be engaged in devotional service, they may be innocent, and they may also respect the devotees, and that we can clearly see in this world. Therefore it is advised that we completely try to avoid the demoniac people, but we may still try to help those who are innocent and those who are not completely atheistic and against the devotees. We may try to help them, give them prasad, give them books, or we may try to make them Krishna conscious. We may try to do that. Whereas those who are too much demoniac, we have to avoid them because we cannot convince them. Even they will not accept prasad, they will not accept any books. And of course amongst the devotees are also different devotees, first class devotee, second class devotee, and third class devotee. The third class are the materialistic devotees who may trying, but they are not yet purified in consciousness. And whereas the intermediate devotees, they are purified in consciousnness, and they are properly dealing with all the devotees, and they do everything for the pleasure of the Lord, giving up all sense gratification. But they may also not be completely pure. But by performing devotional service, very soon they will come to the pure stage of pure devotional service, when they will be able to chant Shuddhanam, pure name. And by chanting Shuddhanam, then Krishna will be revealed and his pastimes will be revealed. And so that is to be achieved, but it will take some time. Etasmin antre Vishnu sarvapayad vid ishvaraha yoshi drupam adiyadesham dadara paramadabhutam prekshaniyoppala shyamam sarvavayava sundaram sumana kanabharanam Sukapolananasanam Nava Yovana Nivrita Stana Bara Krishodaram Mukamodhanuraktali Jankarodvigna Blochanam Bibrat Sukesha Bharena Malamutpula Malikam Sugriva Kantabaranam Subujangada Bhushidam Virajambarasam Vitanitam Advipa Shobaya Kancha Pravila Sadvargu Chala Charananupuram Savrida smita vikshipta bru vilasavalo kanai daitya yuta pacheta su kamam udipayam mohu. So the last verses, and then the chapter is completed. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who can counteract any unfavorable situation, then assumed the form of an extremely beautiful woman. This incarnation as a woman, Mohini Murti, was most pleasing to the mind. Her complexion resembled in color a newly grown blackish lotus, and every part of her body was beautifully situated. Her ears were equally decorated with earrings, her cheeks were very beautiful, her nose was raised, and her face full of youthful luster. Her large breasts made her waist seem very thin. Attracted by the aroma of her face and body, bumblebees hummed around her, and thus her eyes were restless. Her hair, which was extremely beautiful, was garlanded with malika flowers. Her attractively constructed neck was decorated with a necklace and other ornaments. Her arms were decorated with bangles. Her body was covered with a clean sari, and her breasts seemed like islands in an ocean of beauty. Her legs were decorated with ankle bells. Because of the movements of her eyebrows, as she smiled with shyness and glanced over the demons, all the demons were saturated with lusty desires, and every one of them desired to possess her. Purport: because of the Supreme Lord's assuming the form of a beautiful woman to arouse the lusty desires of the demons, a description of her complete beauty is given here. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Churning of the Milk Ocean. Hare Krishna. Any question? Or any comment? Yeah, Mataji is behind. We can give the microphone to Mataji is behind.
What is the difference between the feelings? Maybe they are not pure, but the feelings we have towards the deity of Krishna, and have and some devotees call this sentimental mood, and with this sentimental mood, do the pure feelings have coming from the soul of Krishna? What is the difference between these?
What is the difference between the sentimental feelings, so-called, some may say, of the devotee who is not pure, and the pure devotees? Of course, there's a difference is there. You may say from one point of view a big difference is there. So the feelings of the devotees, the pure devotees, that is coming from the soul, as explained from the bhava-avastha, when the devotees are transcendently situated, completely apart from the gross body and the subtle body, then the emotions are coming from the heart. But as explained, usually on the bhava-avastha and the elevated state, there is no more subtle body of the material mind and consciousness. But the pure consciousness is there, the pure intelligence is there. And so the emotions are coming from the heart, pure emotions. And that is explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So first comes the sthai bhav, the permanent feeling that in one of the 5 rasas, Shanta ras, although that is the neutral relationship, which is, it is explained in some places, also even in Braj, but in other places only 4 are explained. The reason is that, for example, the animals are there. So from one point of view, so it seems to be that they cannot really completely engage with Krishna in an exchange, or the trees. So therefore it may be explained as Shantaras. Whereas in other places it is explained that even the animals, so they have feelings and they are transcendental bodies there. And for example, the cows, they have Vatsalya Bhav to some extent. But they are there, so in this way, the feelings are there that we want to be with Krishna, and the cows, they want to give milk, but they cannot, like for example, like Mother Yashoda. So the exchange is not as complete as Mother Yashoda's exchange, because they are in the form of a cow. So therefore there is a differentiation made there. So that is a sthai bhav, the permanent relationship which is there. Or Dasya, the servants of Krishna, Raktak, Patrak, who are making tambul. So externally speaking, they may be seen as the servants, and from one point of view there is also some kind of hierarchy, even in the spiritual world. The Brahmanas are there, the Kshatriyas are there, the Vaishyas are there, even those of the lower caste, like those who are making the tambul, for example, those who are washing Krishna's cloth, those who are taking care of Krishna's hair, the nai, the barber. So they may be, so from that point of view, seen as from a lower position, but Krishna doesn't make this differentiation. But still, like Krishna is not directly embracing the barber which is there, the barber boy, but he has so much love for him. And sometimes when the parents are not there, he will pet him or will take in his embrace. But not in front of the parents, because they are from the lower part of the society. So and then the friends are there, the other gopas, and then they can mix with Krishna, and they are embracing Krishna, they are playing with Krishna. And then the parents are there, and those who have parental affection, the elderly gopas, gopis, and then the gopis of the same age, or rather maybe a little younger than Krishna, Srimati Radharani. So they have this parama bhav, this conjugal relationship with Krishna. So that is the sthai bhav, that is the permanent ecstasy, and that is completely pure. And then there may be so many other emotions which are there, and they are known, that is, description is there giving in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Ujjwal Nilamani. Like for example, transcendental ecstasy is there, Ashta Sattvika Bhav, tears coming from the eyes, like torrents of rains, and not being able to speak properly, or the body shaking. So these are the transcendental emotions. And then transcendental, ecstatic emotions may be there in the loving exchange with Krishna. And then some other emotions are there which are known as Vyabhichari Bhav, 33 in number. They are coming and going. Just like in the ocean, that the waves are coming and going. But the ocean is not affected. So similarly, the sthai bhav of Krishna's devotee, that is permanent. Like Krishna is my friend, Krishna is my beloved. But then the different emotions are coming and going. Like sometimes being sad, sometimes being angry at Krishna also, like the gopis when Krishna goes to Chandravali, then Radharani becomes transcendently angry. So they are coming and going, and sometimes they are so strong that so they are overpowering, even so to say, the permanent ecstasy of the devotee. But they are coming and going. So these are the transcendental emotions of the pure devotees. Whereas the devotees who are not advanced in spiritual life yet, who are known as sadhakas, but they have gained transcendental knowledge by the mercy of the spiritual master, and they know I am the servant of Krishna. So they have their loving sentiments towards Krishna, but it is not pure, because they are under the modes of material nature. Sometimes in sattva-gun, sometimes rajagun, sometimes tamagun. So it is mixed. When they are in sattva-gun, it is more pure. It is then more relishable than also. But when the rajagun is there, if you're cooking something and you want to then thinking, oh, I will have this then for me. So even some lusty desires may be there, and while you're chanting or service, then it is not will be not pleasurable for Krishna, what to speak for you, and you will realize that. But still, Krishna is merciful, and most merciful, and he's seeing the sentiment, the endeavor of the devotee, and he doesn't see the fault. When the devotee is humble and respectful, trying his best. So therefore we have to try our best. So according then to the sadhaka's advancement, then you may see some greater difference or smaller difference. But the pure devotees, their emotions are completely transcendental, nothing to do with the material world. But then the sadhakas, when they are under the modes of material nature, so then it is, the emotions may be there, but it is not pure. And to the degree of the contamination, or under which modes they are, then it becomes less and less pleasurable for the Lord to accept, or even then for the devotee to relish. So there is a difference there. But basically all these emotions which are there in the pure devotees, they may be there in the conditioned devotee who is still conditioned, but it is not pure. That is the difference. And but we don't have to be worried, but we simply have to continue. And as we go on, the consciousness becomes purified, and then the desires, they become purified, the emotions become purified more and more. And then it will be more and more relishable for Krishna, and then for ourselves. So it is just a question of time. So we have to tolerate our own fallen condition and continue. And then especially it is also important to try to respect all the devotees, and rather than trying to see the fault in others, try to see the good qualities in the others and try to help them. But first of all, we have to help ourselves by following the process properly, by being in the association of the devotees who are more advanced. Then it will be easier to advance more quickly in the association of the advanced devotees. Just even in the material world, we can see if we are together with people who are smoking, difficult not to smoke. Or if we are together with people who are drinking, very difficult. So therefore we have to be in the association of the devotees who are more advanced, who are absorbed in the service, who have pure consciousness. Then it will be easier to become pure. But if you are together with devotees who are materialistic, who are criticizing others, then you will be affected by that, and it will be more difficult to advance. So we have to have the good association, and we have to try our best, and we have to pray for the mercy of Hari Guru and Vaishnav. So, yes, but then of course even Prabhupada is explained, and we can see that the pure emotions which are mentioned in the scriptures, which the eternal associates have, like the Ashta-sattvika bhav, or even the Vyabhichari bhav, this in the conditioned state you cannot really fully understand. You cannot. But we have to simply listen, and then we may understand something by listening, but then you have to practice. And when you become advanced, then everything becomes clear, crystal clear. But in the conditioned state, whatever position you are in, you just have to try your best to to continue engaging in devotional service to the best of your ability. And as you go on, you become more and more pure. And the desires will be more pure, the emotions are more pure. Okay? Hare Krishna. But of course you may also say it is just like gold and silver, or gold and metal, or iron. So gold is gold, and iron is iron. So those who are expert, they can see what is gold, and then they can see if something is not pure. But in the conditioned state it will be difficult. But we try our best. One more question. Last question. Last question. Yeah. How you can be humble all the time? Yes. Yeah. Yes. How to be humble. How to be concentrated. Yes. The most important thing is that you have to always chant Hare Krishna. You're chanting Hare Krishna, you have a jap mala, you're chanting every day, 16 rounds. Yeah, that is the beginning. And then different things you can do. So first of all, there are the verses which are there, which may be chanted, like Mahaprabhu's verse, Trinada Pisunichena. You know that verse? You know the verse, Trinada Pisunichena, Tarora Pisaishnuna, Amanina Amadanena Kirtaniya Sarahadi. So that verse you may recite every day. My Mahaprabhu has given this verse, and so that one should chant the holy names in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and more tolerant than the tree, and not expect any honor, give all honor to others. So one has to recite this verse every day. And then actually throughout the day, so you have to try to take shelter of the spiritual master or the great devotees, Mahaprabhu, and pray to them so that you can remain humble. So there may be some verses which you may recite. I mean, there's one verse which I like to recite, which is known amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Nama. I offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, Guru. So maybe Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru, or person who is spiritually advanced, you take shelter of him, you pray to him. You offer obeisances to him. And then to Mahaprabhu, who is the Kali Yuga avatar. And then to Radharani, to Krishna and Krishna's devotees, and the devotees of Krishna's devotees. So you may say these prayers a few times a day, because it is true, it is difficult to be concentrated. And then somebody is coming, pushing us. And then, hey, why are you pushing me? The false ego is coming. False ego is most subtle element. You have the different elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, more subtle and subtle, mind, intelligence. And most subtle is actually the false ego. Most subtle, difficult sometimes to understand. In our consciousness, it is now my proper consciousness, so it is the ego who is acting. So it is most subtle, but even it is explained in scriptures that elements are there covering the world. And the thickest element is actually the false ego. And therefore we can see practically that many times the false ego of the individual is very, very thick. So we have to try to overcome the false ego. And for that, the only way is by surrendering to Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. So for that purpose, you may chant this mantra many times in between the day, and then, but especially chant the Maha Mantra always. Because while chanting the Maha Mantra, then you're connected with Krishna. And then Krishna will help you to remain humble, to tolerate all the difficulties, to have the proper consciousness. Okay? All right. Hare Krishna.